Well, hello there, and thank you for clicking onto this video today. So, it's funny. You go away for a few days thinking, nothing that interesting is going to happen. It doesn't matter if I don't make a video for a few days. And then, oh, the Prime Minister goes, Andy Burnham wins his election, and all kind of speculation breaks loose. So, there you go. Anyway, but as you may know, Andy Burnham has won his election as an MP, pretty much forcing Keir Starmer to go, which not I don't think anyone's particularly sad about. And he has made a speech where he sets out, sort of, kind of, maybe, what he intends to do. So what we're going to do is, I've taken a few sources, The Guardian, Independent, and also The Canary, and what we're going to do is we're going to read through kind of what he's kind of indicated, what he's kind of sets out, and then I'm going to offer my insights into it, as like so. As you may know, Andy Burnham has set out his blueprint to transform the UK with a promise of improving living standards and restoring faith in politics, through the biggest rebalancing of power our country's ever seen. That's what he said. So, in a wide-ranging speech anchored by an ambition to lift the country back up and revive hope among fed-up voters, Burnham said that there needed to be a dramatic change in how Britain is governed, not just who governs it. With Burnham now all but certain takeover from Keir Starmer, as we all know, his address was intended, I believe, to show us kind of what direction he's maybe going to take the country in and reassure voters and MPs who may feel he's untested and even unproven in power, which maybe, I don't know, he was the mayor for Manchester, which is a big city, for quite a long time, but we'll see. So speaking at the People's History Museum in Manchester, the new Makerfield MP outlined several things. So he outlined a long-term ambition for greater public control of essential services such as water, housing, energy, and transport to help curb the cost of living crisis, though he didn't really go into specifics. But anyway, so carrying on. A number 10 North hub to oversee the distribution of power and resources from Whitehall across the country, which it mentions here in my notes. The Guardian review would be run by his former chief executive in Manchester, and the biggest council housing programme since the post-war period, and a high street renaissance through reform of business rates. And also rebalancing the education system that he said has to focus on university route and putting academic and technical courses on an equal footing. And in his speech, he once again sought to reassure that he would stick to Rachel Reeves' fiscal rules, even though he himself has suggested that the UK wasn't hock, and I quote, to the bond markets, saying that his programme was backed by a discipline that comes with sound public finances, but we'll get to that a bit later. But he also kind of said that he wouldn't announce any cabinet positions now. And he kind of hinted that there might be an early package of cost of living support once he makes it into Downing Street, and he acknowledged that people can't wait forever for change, as many people continue to struggle with bills and other everyday essentials. And he said, people need a bit extra now to help with rising costs, he said. He also says, I will do my best to deliver it, and whilst not taking any risk with public finances, we'll seek to give Britain some breathing space as soon as I can. People need to be able to look forward to a night out or a holiday with kids. People need hope. Hope was a recurrent kind of theme of the speech. He kind of mentioned it a lot. He said, what hope can we have that it will be different this time? That is the question I'd be asking if I was a voter right now. Westminster has not been working for people, and it has not been working for a very long time. In fact, it is broken, and as a result, the country isn't where it should be. It is stuck in a rut, and clearly we can't go on like this. And he also went on to say, now that might matter less in a world where people's lives are getting better, but when they are not, it is dangerous and destructive, and what remains of cultural trust in politics, he said. And he also said that we can't go through another decade like we've had. We need a new determination to raise living standards. We need a change in politics, and we need it now. And so he kind of outlined that he'll set up a number 10 North as a nerve centre to rewire Britain to oversee devolution of power and resources to mayors and local authorities across the UK. And he also suggests that Whitehall had long been too adversarial, with different departments had wasted too much time fighting each other. He said, "Let me say directly, the days of Whitehall fighting and devolution of power into regions and nations are over for good." In a suggestion that he could legislate to force Whitehall to act more in the interest of reasons, the number 10 operation based in Manchester would be tasked with striving for equivalent living conditions in all parts of the country. This might mean, which he did hint at, in following what has been called the German model, where federal government is legally required to share income tax and VAT revenues with the regions and requires fiscal equalisation to reduce wealth disparities between different areas. And addressing concerns that Manchester does not reflect the entire of the north of England, Burnham said that the hub would allow power to flow to the Midlands, the South West, and London, as well as the North East, Yorkshire, and the Humberside. He also indicated he wanted to take on the culture of Westminster, and that while the political direction set out is not for negotiation, he wanted the whipping system to allow MPs to act as authentic representatives without fear of political retaliation. He also suggested he would reach out to political parties to as much common ground as we can to help deliver his 10-year plan of change. He also said that UK public procurement policy, including defence, would be focused on helping British-based companies, suggesting that would be the case even if it ended up costing the taxpayers more. So there's a decent amount here. So let's kind of go through this. Kind of go through it, and the cynic in me is kind of already come out. So the major kind of, I guess you might call it, gimmick of devolution has been talked about before. He is not the first person that's come into government. I've seen quite a few governments come and go at this point. It's quite sad, really. And talk about, we're going to do localism, we're going to do devolution, and that's going to increase decision making, local communities, and power through growth. And it's never materialised. Not really. I mean, we've had the devolution in terms of like mayors and things like that, but a lot of people promised big on this and not really delivered. And he has kind of hinted that maybe we'll have a German model, maybe we'll have some kind of more federalised states, as Germany and other European countries have. But ultimately, it kind of, and England as a whole may benefit from that, but it really depends on how good and how bold the local politicians in that area ultimately are, and what powers they get or don't get. Ultimately, if they don't really get powers that actually give them any kind of real authority to actually help the local communities, then it doesn't really amount to very much, does it? Because I hate saying ultimately, because realistically, to give actual devolution, that would actually involve giving away some power from Westminster permanently. And Westminster doesn't like doing that. So that might happen, and it could benefit England, but I don't know. Given what is kind of outlined, we'll kind of have to wait and see that. Now, the pledge of the biggest council house building programme is potentially a good one. The sell-off of the council houses in the 80s under Margaret Thatcher was one of the biggest mistakes we've made, and we can see the results of it. The promise to build more council houses, which is what people said at the time. People said, "Oh no, well, sell off these council houses. The people that live in them, they'll make a big profit, but don't worry, we'll build more of them." But that never happened. Never materialised. So we basically just sold off housing stock for poorer people, essentially, and we can see where that has led us to: the increasing homelessness, the fact that the rental sector has basically moved into that area and exploits tenants. We can see the the kind of longer term results of that and how destructive it has been. So a policy to build more is good, whether that materialises or not, given the given how slow it takes to build kind of houses at the moment. I'm not particularly convinced. I'll believe it when I see it. Putting it that way. And one thing that immediately kind of but springs out to me is that when it comes to things like electoral reform, even though he has indicated in the past he's in favour of it, was not mentioned. Having an elected second chamber so we can get rid of all these lords who are nearly dead, most of them, or look like they're dead anyway. Uh, Having a smaller second chamber so that doesn't cost as much, and having a second chamber that's actually filled with people that are actually representing communities, having a second chamber that isn't just a dumping ground for political hacks, people that have donated to various political parties, would actually be a good thing, and that's not mentioning at all. And even when it comes to nationalisation of things like water, electricity, and public transportation, which is popular, it's just not like some mad radical left-wing thing. Polling on this issues demonstrates most people actually are supportive of this. They understand and appreciate that putting that into the hands of private equity and big business was a bad idea, and we need to reclaim that. And through that, we can help kind of ease things like the cost of living. It's kind of hinted that he might do something with that, but there wasn't any strong commitment about it, which is not particularly encouraging. And as I've kind of taken a note of, even the BBC noted that Andy Burnham's economic goal is no different to Keir Starmer's. And he reiterated that he would stick to Rachel Reeves' self-imposed fiscal rules, which is self-imposed. It is something of a straitjacket that they've imposed on themselves. And given the fact that there is a lot of speculation, there's a lot of kind of Labour Party right-wingers, people like Wes Street and Shabana Mahmood or Ed Miliband or Rachel Reeves will kind of continue, I don't exactly see where this great wind of change is going to come from. And we also have the possibility of people like Josh Simmons maybe brought back, who was very much responsible for kind of bringing Keir Starmer, forcing Keir Starmer into the country, as it were. And another thing, when he talks about wanting a more collaborative politics and a broadest possible coalition, just that particular thing just kills me. It really does. Because I understand why he's saying that. There is this obsession with saying, oh, the country is deeply divided, which it is. That's not an accurate statement to make, but we need a broad political coalition as possible. It's like, dude, the reason why politics is fragmented is that the political centre, the centre of politics, has well over a decade now in the UK and many other countries, has really failed at addressing people's problems and people's concerns, which is why you're seeing a centre kind of split and people shifting to the left and to the right, which is why you have Reform and people who go even more kind of far right with Restore Britain, and why people see people shifting into the Green Party and also the Your Party or whatever it is that they're going to call themselves. That's the reason why you're seeing that. So to kind of go on and talk about, oh, we need a broader coalition as possible, it's like, to do what? Exactly. Like, dude, you have a majority. You don't really need the Conservatives. What immediately speaks to me when he says that is, we want to get cross-party approval to do really terrible things. Already I've seen the kind of Conservatives kind of call on the government the current government, and Andy Burnham is going to come in as Prime Minister saying we need to deal with welfare, we need to deal with welfare, and cut it. Despite the fact that it's not not being able to cut welfare, although they actually did do, that made Keir Starmer unpopular. One of the reasons that made him deeply unpopular was the fact that he just sat there and basically refused to do anything. When it came to things like dealing with the cost of living, the cost of living is, and inflation is being fueled in part by a huge increase in electricity prices for people and for businesses. That's not up for debate. That's just a well-known fact. The prices of electricity in the UK has skyrocketed, especially compared to other countries in Europe, which have better means and often have nationalised their energy sector, so they're better able to kind of restrict these increases and keep it better under control. Whereas in the UK, it just fucking skyrocketed. Uh, Pretty much since the invasion of Ukraine and going on from that period. We have an energy regulator that's in the hand of the energy companies themselves. And the best way, and really the only feasible way to keep their energy prices, cut them, and keep them under some degree of control is to nationalise it. It's the only way. What other way is there? I'd love to hear another way. I really would, but I've never heard a convincing argument about doing it another way. And Keir Starmer refused to do it. And it's the same for the water companies. Not only has the price of water massively increased, companies like Thames Water have basically siphoned off the profits that they were taking, gave it to their shareholders, and now that company is massively in debt. It's hundreds of millions of pounds in debt because it took the money and did a rudder, essentially, siphoned it off to the people that own shares in the company. They have all the money now. And these water companies, especially Thames Water, now because they're so in debt, they can't do things like build in more reservoirs. They can't really help improve the piping systems and things like that. That is another thing which Keir Starmer basically refused to do, even though he did win a landslide. He had a good mandate to do it. He didn't need an agreement of any other political party. He could have just done it if he really wanted to. And Burnham might do it, possibly. He says that he wants to sort out the situation with utilities and re-industrialise places that Westminster has left behind. But he's only got 3 years to do it, and the fact that he's not even committing to doing that even now, before he actually becomes Prime Minister, is not really encouraging. And the reason why I think is ultimately this. The sad reality is that within Labour, Conservatives, Reform, Restore Britain, put them in the same camp. Because as much as people argue, they're really not that too far away if you actually look at what they want to do. Tackling cost of living, tackling inequality, and tackling the fact that parts of the country that have undeniably been left behind requires things like public investment. And in order to do that, it requires actually getting to grip with corporations that are bleeding us dry, with things like tax avoidance, people that shuffle around money, which can be dealt with. There are ways of doing it. There's plenty of economists and people that analyse things like taxation and tax avoidance that have plenty of ways of how you can start to deal with these problems. Maybe not eradicate them, but certainly get to a point where you're recouping far much more tax than we are now. And governments just refuse to listen. And the reason is because, unfortunately, a lot of them are mostly in the pockets of those people, so they have very little incentive to do it. So, to kind of recap where we've kind of started from, let's summarize. Some of the things that he said are encouraging, but he's not really given much detail. And if he's not kind of outlining detail at this particular point in time, I don't really see that much of this is really going to happen. I wish that it did, because some of what he's outlined if he actually did commit to it, would probably be a good idea. Devolution of some kind for large parts of the UK probably would be a decent idea. Getting a grip on things, on utilities and the sheer cost of utilities, and trying to get a grip on it is a good idea. But the fact that he's not actually committed to doing anything is not particularly encouraging. I don't know. What do you think? Please like and subscribe to this video, and thank you very much for listening, and I will catch you on another day. So, bye bye.